It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of November 5th, 2004. We're finally into the holiday movie season of 2004, and this is a pretty good holiday season. We've got a ton of movies, notable movies to talk about, starting with the two this weekend. And there's no bigger and better way to start it off with one of the biggest releases of not just the weekend, but one of the biggest releases of the year, and that is the latest from Disney and Pixar, and that is The Incredibles. Still a better representation than the Fantastic Four, than the three Fantastic Four movies they made. But Marvel Studios can change it around next year, so we're counting on you, Marvel. But this is honestly the Fantastic Four, except it's animated and has nothing to do with the actual superheroes. Because I mean, it literally is a movie that's literally the Fantastic Four, but not really. Obviously, from the plot, from the premise, the trailer, you can see that it follows a family of superheroes who are forced to hide their powers and live a quiet suburban life. Mr. Incredible, played by Craig T. Nelson's desire to help people, draws the entire family into a battle with a villain, played by Jason Lee, and his killer robot. And really, there's not much more I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said. I mean, this is a smart, well-crafted animated superhero from Brad Bird, who, of course, is a phenomenal director. He's made a ton of great movies, and, he's just... What more do you got to say about his work? I mean, the guy is a freaking genius, and continues to be a freaking genius even to this very day. I mean, leave it to someone like him, who's already had a great animated masterpiece with The Iron Giant, to make one of Pixar's defining films, one of their greatest movies in general. A great voice cast that includes the aforementioned Nelson, Holly Hunter, Jason Lee, Samuel L. Jackson. Spectacular. Great animation all around. I love the way that the film uses 2D animation to create CG animation, which gives it a more realistic flow. Something that really a lot of the animated movies nowadays are starting to take notice of. We started seeing it with stuff like the Peanuts movie, and then the Lego movie, of course, Spider-Man Across the Universe, those movies, like Spider-Verse, but yeah, this is one of the movies that really took that to the next level and really showed that you could still do 2D animation within a CG animated film. And this is one of the best examples of it. A lot of good comedy, a lot of good dramatic moments, perfectly balanced in a very unique way. I mean, if anyone wants to ever tell you that you can never feel anything for animated characters, show them this movie. Show them the way that these characters act whenever somebody that they know is in danger or they think they're dead. This movie does drama really, really well. The action is also great too, using all the capabilities what can be done with animation, and it's with already, like I said, great animation to a T. And what more do I got to say about that score on Michael Giacchino? I mean, this is a great score from him, and it was a tipping point for not just Pixar, but for Brad Bird, showing what a meaningful and masterful storyteller he could be. Because The Iron Giant was just scratching the surface. This is a movie that really shows his true potential as a filmmaker in general, and I think it works very well here. It's still one of Pixar's greatest achievements as a studio, and it continued into the sequel too, but we'll have to wait a little bit for that one. But yeah, this is a great, great movie, and it was, of course, a monster hit, and eventually led to many, many things coming from Disney and Pixar. And believe it or not, this was actually one of the movies where Disney started to realize, because keep in mind, Pixar and Disney were not merged together at this point. Pixar was still an independent company releasing their movies through Disney, and one of the big things with what was going on at the time was that there was contract negotiations, and Michael Eisner, who was the head of Disney at the time, had to essentially table those negotiations to a point where Pixar was pretty much free to go to whatever studio they wanted to. And not but a year later, when Hong Kong Disneyland opened up, and Eisner, as well as the new CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, at the time, they were watching the parade and realized that they're realizing that people were more receptive to the Pixar characters than they were to the Disney characters, and thus that led Bob Iger to eventually reopen negotiation talks with Pixar, and the rest is history. That following year, Disney and Pixar became one. John Lasseter became the head of the Disney Animated Studios, and essentially began the third renaissance of the Disney Animation Studios. And we had the second one in the 1980s and 90s, and now we have the third one coming up here. But yeah, if you saw this movie in a theater, you might have noticed that Cars was supposed to be released 1 year from now, from that point in time. But of course, because of those negotiations, they had to delay the film to the summer of 2006, and so yeah, a little bit of history there, but we'll certainly delve more into that when we get to the movie that eventually replaced Cars for that release date, Chicken Little, because that was the movie where Disney basically had to say, okay, we need help badly, but we're still about a full year away from getting to that movie we're taking up. But The Incredibles, not much more to say about this movie. It's a fantastic film. If you haven't seen it already, get off your ass and see it, man. But with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Jude Law in the remake of Alfie. So finding it hard to settle down and committing himself to only one woman, Alfie, played by Jude Law, is a charming British bachelor and undeniable ladies' man who enjoys cruising the streets of New York as a limousine chauffeur. Almost impeccably dressed, the silver-tongued Casanova is irresistible. However, things take a turn when a night of unrestrained passion seriously tests Alfie's frivolous approach to life, and in the end, is he really happy? Above all, what is it all about then? Now, this is, like I said before, this is a remake of the 1966 movie starring Michael Caine, which also had a sequel to it in '75. And, you can tell by the trailer, the pieces are definitely there for something really good, but, unfortunately, the film really doesn't get... I don't think the film really gets it, and I think that's one of the biggest problems with the movie in general, is that it kind of plays it way too safe. I mean, this is directed by Charles Shire. We've talked about a lot of his movies before. He did great stuff like He did stuff like Father of the Bride, I Love Trouble, Father of the Bride Part 2. This was back when he and Nancy Myers used to work together on a number of different movies, but then they split up. And yeah, this is one of those movies where he tried to go off on his own, and it just doesn't work, but not for the lack of trying. There's a great cast involved in this movie. I think Jude Law was a perfect fit to play Alfie in this. You've got a great cast that includes Marissa Tomei, Susan Sarandon, Renee Taylor, Jane Krakowski, Omar Epps, Neil Long, Sienna Miller, who I said last week that she and Jude Law were essentially dating around the time. I don't know if they were married at that point. Because I know they were in a relationship for a little bit, but I don't know if they were actually together at that point. Let me see. They got married on Christmas Day, but basically Jude Law had to apologize to Sienna Miller because he had an affair with his child's nanny. So, kind of art imitating life in that situation. Is life imitating art in that situation, and those two eventually split up about 2 years after they got engaged. But yeah, the movie has a lot of elements where it could work. Jude Law is really giving it his all in the movie, but the film wants to have its cake and eat it too. It's just a movie that, like, people forget that the original Alfie was not just a movie about Michael Caine as this swooning, crazy, sex-wheeling bachelor. Like, it was a movie that had depth to it. It was a movie that had a significance to it. If you want to say a social significance, maybe, mostly because I'm trying to find the type of words I want to use here. But this New York Times review I see here on Wikipedia kind of sets it up nicely, where it says that the new Alfie doesn't taste social significance, it just wants us to have a good time. And I kind of agree with that. It's kind of like the Entourage movie. Like, those characters in the Entourage movie didn't grow up in that movie like they did in the television series. And even then, they didn't grow up by that much. But in the movie just doesn't want you to see these characters mature in any way, shape, or form. They just want you to accept them as who they are, and the fact that they will never age or get wiser. Kind of like with the Sex and the City movies. Like, those Sex and the City and Entourage, those movies in particular really do feel like films that are the complete opposite of what the shows were trying to accomplish here. And in the case of this movie here, the pieces are definitely there. There's definitely a lot of good ideas involved in the film in general, and it just never gets to that point where the film really wants to give you an idea of what they're trying to accomplish here. And maybe somebody like Nancy Myers probably would have helped nicely to have as a little bit of a compromising element to the movie, where she can add her ideas to this. Like, I feel like when these two work together on Father of the Bride, it worked very well. But when Charles Shires is trying to do it on his own, it just doesn't work as well as I think they wanted it to. Overall, the biggest problem with the movie, I feel like, is that it doesn't have... It's one of those remakes that just feels like it was trying to be too mainstream. Keep in mind, this was when Paramount was just remaking a lot of their catalog titles, and most of the time, they worked out okay, but then there were some that didn't work out well, like the Stepford Wives we talked about earlier in the year. And this is another one of those examples where I feel like they should have gone all the way with it. They shouldn't have tried to play it safe and marketable. And I think it backfired on them big time in this case here. It's a movie where the pieces are definitely there for something really good, but unfortunately, the film just can't gravitate on what kind of a movie it wants to be. Does it just want to be, does it want to do something that's actually going to modernize the story from the original film, or does it want to be something that just wants to take the namesake of the title because the title is something that people remember? And that's what I think this movie does. Takes the title of the latter and doesn't want to do anything unique and different with it, but has a hot young star in Jude Law, who we're at the halfway point of his many movies in 2004, so we've got a long way to go with him. But trust me, though, the movies will indeed get better with him, because I think we had Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, which is a great movie. I Heart of Huckabees, which was not so much, and this is just one where it is, yeah, not so much. So we're 1 for 3 at this point, but it does get better as the year goes on. Trust me, but yeah, so not much more to say about this one. Kind of an underwhelming remake. Good ideas, just bad execution overall. So that's what I have to say about Alfie. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, we'll take a look at 6 more movies, including another big animated feature around this time of the year, Robert Zemeckis' adaptation of The Polar Express, starring Tom Hanks, After the Sunset with Pierce Brosnan and Woody Harrelson, directed by Brett Ratner, the latest Chucky film, the latest Child's Play movie, Seed of Chucky, Renee Zellweger starring in the sequel, Bridget Jones, The Edge of Reason. We also have Johnny Depp and Freddie Highmore in Finding Neverland, and also Liam Neeson in Kinsey. So we'll take a look at those 6 movies all on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.